Okay, what's going on with Ruby lately? Well, she has no head at the moment. I blew a head gasket about a week and a half ago. Um, when I took the head off, I noticed that the fire ring on the head gasket around cylinder number one was oval shaped. It actually expanded like this, and it started to overlap into the coolant jacket. So what happened when I got home is a bunch of steam was coming out of the radiator cap, and I knew right away what happened there. So what I did was I went and got the head checked, got it redone, got a valve job. The reason that I went through all that was because when I was going to replace the valve seals, I went to remove the keepers here and took the spring off. And in the middle of changing the valve seal, I noticed that the valve was jiggling inside the guide. And I'm like, that's not good. So I went ahead and I checked the other three exhaust valves, and they were all jiggling inside the guides. So that was way out of spec. When I checked the intake side, none of the guides were bad. They were all perfectly fine. So that leads me to believe something with maybe the exhaust back pressure was the issue. It's possible that I was running way too small of a turbine housing for the amount of boost and power that I was making. Now, this whole set turbo, this is a HE351CW, but I was using an HY35 turbine housing, a 9 centimeter housing. It's relatively small compared to the compressor side. Despite the smaller turbine size, it still didn't spool very well. And I think it was just creating a ton of back pressure, and that perhaps is what killed the valve guides, I'm sure. So I made the executive decision to go with a different turbo. And just a side note here, this cheap turbo blanket that I bought from Amazon for 24 bucks, after 3 years, is still going strong. This has outlasted some of the more expensive turbo blankets that I've tried from companies like BEI. And I can recommend it. I could almost reuse it. It still looks pretty damn good. So I'll show you a link to that shortly. But this is the turbo that I decided to go with. This is the Borg Warner S200 SXE. I bought the core with the compressor housing and center section, and then I bought the turbine housing separately. So this turbo is rated for between 300 and 650 horsepower. As you may recall, Ruby made about 505 wheel horsepower. So, this is the upper range of what this turbo can provide as far as crank horsepower. But it will spool a hell of a lot quicker than that old thing. I really think that the rotating mass in that turbo was it was heavy. I mean, it took forever to spool up. So I think that this one will do a lot better job of spooling, and also be efficient in the boost range and power that I'm going to be running. I used Borg Warner's MatchBot, plugged in some educated guesses here. This is not a perfect tool by any means. A lot of it is guesswork, but it gets you pretty close to an idea of when you can start to produce boost and how much back pressure you're going to have. So it calculates estimated manifold back pressure. Some pretty useful information based on the turbine housing size that you're going to go with, the compressor. It goes into details on the estimated torque and horsepower by RPM. You just have to make sure that your plots fit on the map where the compressor is going to be most efficient. So this seems to work out pretty well for the numbers that I plugged in. Basically around 2,500 RPM, the most boost I could probably make is 6.5 pounds if I really hold the wastegate closed. And then around 3,000 RPM, it starts to wake up, and I have 14 pounds, and I could hit full boost theoretically by 3,500 RPM with 12% wastegate opening. Now that's all assuming that I have not only this compressor, but also this turbine housing. So I decided to go with, and the wheel size is 70 millimeter on that turbo on the turbine side. I decided to go with a .83 AR housing. It seems to be pretty happy with that. I could go .63, but I really don't gain much from that. And the exhaust manifold back pressure in the higher RPMs is a little too high. And I think that that's what ultimately killed the exhaust valve guides in the first place. So I think it's going to be a lot safer to run the .83 housing with that new turbo. By the way, this beer is awesome. This is a chocolate stout. Really recommend this. It's good stuff. Anyway, let me show you that turbo blanket. So I purchased this back in February of 2021. So, 3 years. And it still looks pretty damn good. It was only 24 bucks. So, if you look that up on Amazon, you don't have much to lose except 24 bucks. It's better than spending almost $200 on another, on a more expensive branded turbo blanket. So I really don't think it's worth it. But, I'm going to get this downpipe either ceramic coated or rewrapped. I'm going to use the same exhaust manifold, and I'm going to get this recoated with ceramic, as you can see. It's peeling off pretty badly, so it's got to be redone. I know a place locally that will do it for a reasonable price. And let's see, what else have I got going on? So the last thing I want to do is, before I put everything back together, I wanted to replace this power steering pump down here, and I ordered new lines and everything for the power steering pump as well. I had issues with steering, and it wasn't related to that solenoid that controls the fluid flow. That was working properly. I think it was just the power steering pump was it was a replacement, a remanufactured one, and it never worked correctly ever since I installed it. So I just got it replaced under warranty. So I'm swapping that out now. As a matter of fact, the box for that is right there. I'm also putting in a new radiator. I had a base model Probe GL radiator, which is only 5/8 of an inch thick. That is the only radiator that they sell at the parts stores around here. So I ended up ordering this one, which is the correct size for GT. This is the 1-inch core. And it was also a lot cheaper from Rock Auto too. So I should have never gone to the parts store for that to begin with. That was a mistake. I did more things than I thought I did. Yeah, I also got the fuel injectors cleaned. So these are ready to go. I didn't want to just start the car up after not having it running for a couple of months when I was running E85, because what happens with the E85 is if you let it sit in the fuel system for too long, it starts gumming up the fuel injectors. These weren't so bad. I think that they were only about 6 or 7% between each other, which isn't terrible, but I still, just in case, I didn't want to chance it. So those are cleaned. Last thing. So the new turbo requires a minimum of a 12 AN size oil return. The stock push-on fitting is not going to cut it. So I went ahead and removed this. I'm going to be getting a 12 AN adapter to 1/2 inch BSP, I think it is. British something, that it's the type of threads. But yeah, I need to buy an adapter, get that put in. A few other odds and ends, and then it will be all put back together. Oh yeah, and I'm putting in a new Spall radiator fan, which flows a lot more air than the cheap parts store slim fan that I had previously. So a lot of little goodies and things that'll make it more reliable, perform better. We'll see what it does. I should have it back together probably in about 2 weeks or so. Just gotta wait for everything to come in. I'm still waiting for the turbo to ship. But yeah, that's where we're at. Later, guys.